Hello all. In this video I'll be looking at the new Hongdui HD29 honing guide and the new Enjoywood Combi square set, both kindly sent to me by Banggood for this review. The Enjoywood square set will be given away to one of you lucky viewers, and details on how to enter I'll cover at the end. Let's get straight into it, starting with the Hongdui HD29 honing guide. You may have seen one or two others have a preview of this, but while I agree with them that this has levelled up the honing game, I found a couple of niggles with it which you might want to be aware of before buying. This is the full set, but just the honer or the individual accessories are available. The set comes in a box worthy of high-end tech, with its textured card and magnetic flap. A bit special as first impressions go. Here's the full set in all its glory then. Let's run through what's here and what do what. This is the angle indicator, angles from 15 to 50 degrees in 5-degree increments, solid aluminium construction in the guise of a fidget spinner, and as with all the accessories in the set, it's available to buy separately too. This is the main honer body, absolute thing of beauty, superbly crafted with details like the dovetail each side for the angle setter, rose gold anodizing, centering jaws, and a huge brass roller. Just look at the machining on these tightening knobs for the honer, like little jewels they are. As you can see, one is off when you pull it from the box. Both are actually supposed to be fitted, but the honer won't fit in the box with both on. There's a flat spot machined on a threaded bar for the little grub screw in the knob, and Allen key provided for fitting. No Allens provided for any of the other fixings though. The threaded bar has an opposite thread one side, allowing the jaws to close equally, centering your tools and blades. You can see there the steel jaws have a wedge shape to class chisels and blades with side bevels. These also are preferable to use for your thinner plane irons. A twist or two of the thumb screw and the jaws can be taken off and turned, giving you straight 90-degree shoulders, perhaps preferable for square-sided mortise chisels and such. Taking off one of the jaws, you can see it has a centering mount and several pinholes, allowing you to set for 0, 15 and 30 degrees each way. If you have any skew chisels, or vintage Stanley and Record skew planes, or even the newer Veritas and Lee-Nielsen's, this will make sharpening those blades much easier. This is a very cool feature, I think. Also available separately, but supplied to me with this set, are the extended jaws. They have the same wedge or straight shoulders as the previous set, but their extra length means they can hold fast the shorter blades of your spoke shaves, or indeed any planer irons that might taper away from the blade edge. Obviously this is a pretty standard straight-sided Stanley blade, but you get the idea. Even though it's gripped solidly here via the wedge jaws, it provides a good opportunity to show the hold down accessory. This would be beneficial if you were holding an iron with the straight 90-degree shoulders, where as you sharpen, there'd be a risk of it riding up in the jaws. This hold down would eliminate any risk of that. It just screws into the honer sides, and in the centre has a simple screw down clamp. Comes with the set, but again available as an accessory. I'm sorry to say, with these long jaws you're unable to use the skew settings. They're machined to seat over the honer, having a sort of housing underneath. They'd need to be flat bottomed like the standard jaws to be set at an angle. The final accessory then slots into this dovetail, which is on both sides, and that is the angle guide / stop. Slide on and tighten down with a brass thumb screw. Only allows for setting between 20 and 50 degrees, no 15-degree option like on the angle indicator fidget spinner. The scale, however, is quite clever, I think. You can see there the main 20 to 50 degrees in 5-degree increments, along with single degree lines that graduate or angle down. It shows you the step height line for the 90-degree shoulders, and above it, if I turn the jaw round, the indicator line for the wedge jaws, where your flat chisel bottom would rest. They're actually a bit pointless, to be honest, as basically with the wedge jaws using your chisel's flat bottom as a reference, which is normal, you just go with the straight lines. Speaking of which, there is a positive stop at each of the indicated 20 to 50 degree 5-degree increments. Great feature to help with speed and consistency for those common angles. Hopefully you can just about make out the recess for the sprung ball bearings there. Going back to those graduated lines on the scale, here I have an old 6mm chisel with a standard 25-degree bevel. The stop is set at 25 degrees, and you can perhaps see the issue. The blade length is such that where it widens towards the handle, it will interfere with the ability of the jaws to close. Do excuse the state of this beat up chisel, but as mentioned earlier, your reference is usually the flattened bottom of the chisel. The bevel of your edge is referenced off that. But as this won't fit in the jaws reference that way, we'll have to register off the chisel's top side. As you can see, common to Western chisels, this is on an even slope, 1 or 2 degrees off parallel with the bottom. You could perhaps just redo your primary bevel at 30 degrees, shortening the distance to the stop. Your chisel will still do its thing at 30 degrees. Or you could do, as I've done here, the chisel top laying flat to the honer bed. You can see being lower down, the 25-degree line sets it further back so it can be gripped. Further, you can match the existing bevel to the 23 or 24-degree line to compensate for the slope on the top edge of the chisel. So yeah, these graduating lines are a really neat idea, especially as all our chisels become shorter eventually. Worth saying that the stop locks square too, so a good initial indicator whether your cutting edge is square to the sides. One last feature, if more were needed, and a brilliant one at that, is the ability to adjust the roller height to easily set for a secondary bevel if you want one. At its lowest setting, it's concordant with the angle setter. Pull out the spring-loaded knob on the side and turn it a little, it will settle in a slightly raised position. Same again, and it'll raise a little more. That's such a neat solution, meaning you can say set for 25 degrees, turn the wheel to its highest, and just get straight to polishing the secondary bevel. Love that. And that it gives you two secondary bevel options is even better. You will have to remember to set it back to its lowest for primary bevels though. Best to make a bit of a habit of that. I'll show you me actually sharpening something with it in a minute, but first I want to address those niggles I mentioned at the beginning. Starting with the jaws, beautifully machined as they are, my gripe is with the extensions. You can see the flat bottom on the standard short jaws here, central hole and two locating pins machined in. Lovely. But here's the underside of the extended jaw. Same pins and whatnot, but you can now see how they sit in a machined housing. The bottom isn't flat. This means they seat about as perfectly as you can want in the zero position, but will not seat, at least properly, if you try and set them at one of the angles. The tip of the pins do oddly seem to locate despite the housing, but the thumb screw will no longer catch. Extra strange is that they have those offset lengths, which, sat at an angle here, you can see make the tips line up square. For the life of me, I can't think why the long jaws are offset like that if they weren't meant to take the skew position. Another thing I noticed with the long jaws, with a spoke shave blade here, is they prohibit you inserting the stop enough to enable tightening. As you could imagine, this makes it quite difficult to set the blade position for the 25-degree angle. You can try and loosely hold the stop in place, but this is hardly the best scenario for consistency. Another niggle is one that's easily remedied, but it's annoying to see, and that is, while you have these lovely positive stops for your common angles, you can't quite get it to seat in the 50-degree spot. It's off by a hair. You could perhaps sand half a mil off the locking thumb screw for the angle stop, and it would seat, I've no doubt. This is just a silly oversight on a premium tool though. Mind you, being honest, I don't actually have anything with 50-degree bevel. 40 on some of my Japanese chisels is as close as I get, so no great loss, but the option, if it's there, should be usable. Know what I mean? I think I'll email Hongdui with these points and see if I get a response. I mean, having said all that, I'm still in awe of it. It's a remarkable thing. Not a cheap thing though, so if you're going to pay premium dollar, you need to know its shortcomings and its positives. One more thing before I sharpen something. Like almost all honing guides, using jaws alone, it will struggle to hold a Japanese planer blade if you have any. This one has been waiting for about 6 years for me to recondition it and make a new body for it. I might treat myself to that over Christmas holes. Anyway, it is quite possible to hold these thick, tapering irons by using a combination of the jaws and the hold down. On to testing it in action then. These Irwin chisels are my bash at anything sight chisels. This one, the edge was at a bit of an angle, not square, so I set for 25 degrees and worked it for about 10 minutes on the 400 grit diamond plate here. Now it's time to refit the angle setter as I've removed a fair bit of material. It needs nudging up a touch back to 25 degrees and I'm happy to see, thanks to the centering jaws, the cutting edge is looking square. Note my technique for getting a good tighten there, by the way. Happy enough with the primary bevel reshaped on the diamond plate, I set the roller to its high position to start working on a secondary bevel on my whetstones. 600 grit first. You can start to make out the secondary or micro bevel there now. I do the same through 1000 and 3000 grit, and here a quick flatten of my 10,000 polishing stone. A couple of licks back and front and it's looking good. Swishes nicely through some end grain. Probably the first time this chisel's ever done that. At the point you see here, I've resurrected about 4 of these Irwin chisels. All are now razor sharp with nice square edges. With whetstones, which are hella messy, the roller does need attention as you go. I think just because it's so massive, it really sucks up the slurry, which you may have seen fall out dry there. This stops it free rolling a bit. On the fly or while you're sharpening, just turn it through its height settings periodically and that seems to free it up. After a session though, probably advisable to remove the roller via those Allens, clean and lube it. This is a bit of kit you should want to look after, and if you do, I've absolutely no doubt it'll give you and help you maintain a razor edge. Sits in well with the current Hongdui family, I think, and is a fine example of what I want to see more of from them. Premium tools and original concepts, not the bootlegs they started out doing. Pricing is not cheap, but considering the quality of what you get, is excellent value. By a long way, the best value right now is had by getting the full-ish 4-piece set. I say full-ish as for some reason the complete set I've shown here that includes the long jaws isn't available. For the full set I have, you'd have to buy this 4-piece and add the long jaws separately. As you can see, the 4-piece costs £86.47. Adding the long jaws will cost another £28.29, making the genuinely full set £114.76. Even so, considering what this set can do, its quality and aesthetics, that's very reasonable when you compare it to other elite offerings from Veritas, Bridge City and Woodpeckers, which the Hongdui is easily as good as or better, yet costs less. Anyway, if you're happy with your current Honer set but would like an angle guide, you could do a lot worse than this fidget spinner one. It's very good quality with its all metal construction, easy to read and a bit of fun thrown in. It will though set you back £25 with a couple of quid for postage. I think that's a fair price though, to be honest, and it would make a good Christmas gift. There's a 3-piece set available with the angle guides and hold down for a very reasonable £78.61, and a 2-piece set with the long jaws for £94.33. I wonder if the long jaws require that much more machining and finishing, being hard steel, and thus they can't discount the price too much. Hence it's missing from the 4-piece set, and bought with the 2-piece set is comparatively high priced. The Honer as a standalone is £70.75, the stop is £18.86 and the hold down £23.58. The latter two incurring a couple of quid postage if you spend under, can't remember what it is now, £70 or something like that. So you should be able to see from all that what I mean about the 4-piece set being good value considering the prices of the separates or other sets. Other than those minor gripes I had, which, like I say, I'll contact Hongdui about, I genuinely think this system is hard to beat. It pretty much has everything covered, is easy to use, it gives excellent results, and as a bonus is a thing of beauty. So when the lovely Banggood rep first offered me this new Enjoywood Combi square set, I wasn't much interested as someone who has just about every layout and marking tool I might ever need. But looking at the pictures, it looked a very attractive set and one that could be clearly read. So I accepted it anyway so that I might offer it as a prize for one of you. As you can see, it's a 3-piece set that comes in a nice little wooden box. In the set is a 45-90 combi square, a 45-degree square and a sliding bevel. The finish and machining quality on the tool bodies, the red parts, is really quite lovely. When I think back to my first Banggood video some 6 or so years ago, where the tools I looked at, and mostly still use, were all aluminium, yet were rudimentary as far as look and feel went, I find it fascinating that in such a short time, the middling Chinese brands have upped their game so much. It's nice to see the refinement, finish and machining has gone beyond the utilitarian approach of just a few years ago. All these tools, by the way, are aluminium, that's body, rule and all blade. As such, I would recommend these for pencil, not knife marking. On the combi square, movement is free and easy, and the 90 and 45 check out exactly, referenced my usual lump of alley here. No gaps or wiggle between the reference. The rule has metric one side and yee-haws the other, and I have to say, as I get older, I'm becoming really fond of scales that are white on black. I find them the easiest to read clearly. Here I'm checking out where on the scale line is correct, as in butt up to the line, half cover or completely cover. Generally, butt up to is preferable as when you can see the line you can be somewhere near consistent. Checked against my T-type gauge, which I trust, the combi seats perfectly, both exactly 120mm. Nice. I might with the T-type at 120, then overlay with the combi, and you can see there they appear as one line, except on the far right side there where I made a squiggle somehow. But yeah, so far so good. The flip around straight line test. I did this for both outside and inside of the rule and it checks out fine both ways. I followed up with a couple of 45 lines. The centre line there isn't actually central. All these lines were just arbitrary, so my 45s don't cross exactly on it, but they give us something to check the 45 square against. A nice touch on this 45 square is it has a little rest that you can flip out either side, same as you see on almost all tri-squares now. Tracks the existing 45 lines from the combi perfectly, from both sides, inside and outside the blade. Neat little tool that. Lastly then, this beautiful looking sliding bevel. Unlike many, it has a ruler scale marked on it, again metric and yee-haws, and will do everything you expect a normal sliding bevel will do. One thing that interested me though was the addition of these angle scales. These at common angles from 22.5 degrees to 90 degrees. Locking lever is quite nifty too, being one of those sprung ones you can lift and reset to a preferred position, though having it set so it locks and unlocks within the body width is your best shout. Feeling spoilt from the 45 square, I found myself thinking the inclusion of a rest on this would have been a cool addition. Not many bevels have that, this one included unfortunately. Still, what about those angle scales? Well, I noticed that depending on the angle, you're only able to get the line along the stock in one side or the other. The scale only being on one side of the blade, or technically a rule in this instance, this feature from the off is going to have its limits. I have to say as well that confidence wasn't high with this, as even using the longest 22.5 degree line, it's kind of difficult to get it lined up to the body. Thought I'd try two 22.5 degree lines and seeing if they looked okay against the 45 square. I mean, it looks in the ballpark, but no home run. I think it's looking like this scale is better served as an indicator rather than a setting aid. I set it to 45 and it seemed to mark quite a way off compared to the other lines. It's just very hard to tell with the scale lines being so short. A fraction off there could mean a whole degree or so out. So yeah, definitely just for rough guide use I think. It does however have a nice flat stock body and its blade is dead straight, so doing what a sliding bevel would normally do, like copying an internal corner angle or whatever, it'll perform just fine. And look good doing it, which is never such a bad thing. The locking lever also gives great purchase to lock it securely. I've used a few over the years where that's not always been the case. So other than the angle scale on the bevel, a lovely set that works perfectly and looks deluxe. Now this extra machining and quality of finish does come with a cost, that currently being £52.89 for the full 3-piece set. Not a bargain budget set by any means, but I can't see anyone opening the box having spent 50 quid and being disappointed. I certainly wouldn't be. Proper workshop jewellery. As said at the beginning, this is a set I'm putting up for you to be in with a chance of winning. Before I get into the details of that, congratulations to the winner of the last giveaway, Mama Shama on Instagram, who sent me this picture of the Mohu sharpening system about to get its first use. Nice. So the competition for the Enjoywood Combi square set is open to UK mainland residents only. Sorry if that rules you out. To enter, you'll need an Instagram account and you'll need to follow me. Find the giveaway post, which I'll pin to the top of my profile page, and in the comments of that post, type enter and tell me a name you have for a tool that isn't its proper name. This could be a workshop or site tool, or a tool, gadget or utensil you use around the home. The sillier the better, I think. I'll simply judge it on the one I like most or find most ridiculous. As an example of what I'm after, you may have heard me use this in my videos. I refer to my jigsaw as a jigamasaurus, because it's a beast of a Mafell. For an around the home example, there's a comedy cooking show on YouTube called You Suck at Cooking, and they refer to a spatula as a wangjangler. We've actually adopted that one around our house. So that's it. Give us your silly name for a tool or something around the home, and this Enjoywood set could be yours. I'm not a big enough YouTuber to get thousands of entries. Indeed, this last giveaway got just 25 entrants, so your chances are good and worth a try. The competition will be live from the moment this video is published, and will be open until 6 PM Friday the 22nd of November 24. Good luck. Hope you found this look at these new tools on the block interesting. Questions and comments most welcome below. Please like the vid if you did, sub if you aren't already, and as ever, if you made it this far, thanks for watching.